Hello, Sage Seed. If it's your first time on our channel, I'm a professional value investor, and we cover the latest 10K's annual reports of the largest companies highlighted as extreme valuation situations by the Sage Seeds AI. That is a cutting edge AI trained to identify value investment opportunities. Today, I have for us the latest annual report of Boeing, and a little milestone for myself. This is officially the first sequel video that we're working on together. Boeing was covered in the 2022 season when I started this channel, and for the first time, we're now going to get an update of what Boeing has been up to in the 2023 season. We did leave off seeing that Boeing had a bad ranking, a very vulnerable position. Any sort of mishap could make a precarious financial situation collapse. And since that has happened, I have been seeing Boeing in the news in recent weeks. Bad things have happened. We're going to find out how that evolves, the story behind the numbers. Let's now dive in so that our wisdom can blossom. Income statement. Both service and product revenue has increased. In particular, product revenue has increased substantially. Now, we were seeing in the last year the pandemic wasn't kind to product revenue. There is a bit of a bouncing back happening, but the bounce back is bouncing. Revenues increasing by 11 billion roughly, and then the costs of those revenues increasing by about 7 billion, leading to almost a doubling of the operating income. Good stuff, good stuff. Unfortunately for this company, it's not quite enough to get its net income into positive territory. The diluted earnings per share look like this. After the pandemic, they've been negative every single year. They are significantly less negative, but still quite negative. I mean, we're looking at negative $3.67. This is the best it's been in certainly recent memory. The balance sheet. Now, for a company bleeding money on the income statement, there is absolutely no changes to the total assets. Total liabilities, however, have increased by very little. There's actually been a reduction in long-term debt. And good news for Boeing, most of the liability increase is actually in this row, advances and progress billings. We did learn last year that Boeing spends a lot of time making special contracts with its clients because its products are so complicated, highly specialized. They basically make unique product lines for unique clients. Many of those product lines, Boeing gets to ask for advances from customers. Cash flow statement. Ugly start. But by the time we get to the working capital, called changes in assets and liabilities in this one, Boeing has been collecting advances at a much faster pace than probably ever before. Its clients, maybe some of them getting a little bit worried about Boeing's long-term health, have been, we could argue, a little bit generous in allowing Boeing to collect these advances in order to survive until the products are delivered. An advantage for sure that Boeing has, according to this, is that a lot of its clients really don't want to see Boeing do anything other than stick around. But in line with the sort of vulnerableness that we saw last year, more than all of the advances has gone into debt repayments. And so every dollar of advances that Boeing has received, while more advances than I can find them ever getting in history, all of it is going to repaying debt because that's where a lot of the vulnerability comes from on the financial front. So in conclusion for the opening move, how does management feel about these advances? Are they at least happy or grateful? Are they surprised at all that their clients are allowing being so generous with them? Do they even see it as a generous situation? Hey, if you're getting more comfortable uncovering the stories behind the numbers, please like and subscribe. We've transitioned to the item 7, and management right away wasting no time reminding everyone that they are a global market leader in the design, development, manufacture, sales, service, and support of commercial jetliners, military aircraft, satellites, missile defense. I mean, they go on and on and on. Don't lose us. Now, am I being gossipy? Am I just over complicating this, which should be just a simple narrative? I don't think so, because then the second sentence really hammers down the point. We are one of the 2 major manufacturers of 100 plus seat airplanes for the commercial airline industry. Guys, I read a lot of annual reports. This reads like a threat. If Boeing doesn't continue operating, lots of people aren't going to be able to travel home for Christmas. Lots of people not going to be able to do business meetings, which, fair enough, those are kind of disappearing anyway. A second ago, I thought, oh, they're going to be grateful. Boeing very much seems to be comfortable in its position, putting pressure. And now I'm starting to think a lot of these advances are happening because Boeing knows how to pressure its clients. By the second page, we get into this beautiful table. What does the beautiful table show us? That Boeing doesn't have to pay taxes because it doesn't make money. I see a lot of startup companies include tables like this. This whole one benefit of investing with us is that we never make money, so you never have to pay taxes. It's something I expect from startups. It's not something I expect from one of the two global manufacturers of commercial airline jet makers, whatever the word is. The whole tone of this report has shifted dramatically from last year. While all revenues are increasing, you may notice that the slowest recovering revenue source is from defense, space, and security. If a company can't prove a lot, including if they whether they're prepared to handle long-term contracts, they don't earn long-term contracts. And that is precisely the customers that are still holding back, not really returning their business to Boeing as of yet. But Boeing is a powerhouse, let's not forget. It can't be just all negative all the time. Yes, companies go through rough periods, but all companies eventually hit a rough spot. Let's now look at what matters for this company, which we learned last year was the backlog. And here we see green shoots, as management often likes to call it. The backlog has not just increased, it has increased by high double digits. We're talking 20 something, maybe even 30%. And virtually the entire large increase in their backlog is what they're calling contractual backlog, meaning that's where they get advances and all this other stuff. And so, despite all the rough patches, Boeing has very strong historied relationships with some of the most important customers in the world. You try to name me another company that can materialize over $100 billion in new business in a single year just because it needs to. And so, why am I being so negative? Because Boeing, for all intents and purposes, might be able to handle this. They're now spending significant resources paying attention to, here they've called it industry competitiveness, but when you look into it, it's actually international competitiveness that they're most worried about. Basically, almost 80% of all their business is outside of the US. I'm going to interpret because this is a long paragraph and I'm just trying to share the subtext here from what I understand. Boeing calling out Airbus, Bombardier, Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China called COMAC, and a couple of other places. These are all non-US airline manufacturers, and Boeing basically presenting the argument that if they don't continue to make airplanes, it's not going to be another American company that continues to make airplanes. It's going to be foreign competitors. Every single airline industry fully depends on us. Military contracts in the tens of billions would go to shambles if we don't get to keep operating. Even though we have all this debt, you keep us alive because, on top of all this, if we have any sort of bankruptcy, then the US can just forget about ever participating in this industry again because there are too many globalized, large-scale competing airline manufacturers in other countries. Management very much spent a lot of time giving us exactly what those stats looks like. Again, I'm not going to read the entire thing, although I encourage you to check it out if you're interested because it's very well researched. For anyone new to the channel, if you think annual reports always look like this, you really shouldn't. I have personally never seen an annual report that reads like a extremely well-researched, thought-out threat. And honestly, I'm not sure we'll get to read another one again. What Boeing is going through is not what they teach at business school. It's not really something that I have ever heard of in the economic history of the world. A lot of pressure. I called it a gambling situation last year. Boeing's management rejecting that idea, whatever it was they learned about history, a lot of it which was just shared in this annual report that they put together, is that they can take control of the situation by making it explicit what the opportunity cost is going to be if they do go bankrupt. As investors, I feel protected. Do I absolutely love a company that needs to threaten everyone in order to stay running? Clearly, you got to be a certain sort of investor to want to rush towards that. But given what the options looked like last year, Boeing management thinking outside the box, certainly, and definitely doing their all to be stewards of the capital that's been trusted to them. Without a doubt, clear that they're willing to go as far as necessary to protect shareholders. And I know there's conspiracy theories running around affecting the brand right now. None of us know. Don't pretend you know. When I say they're willing to go as far as possible, I mean legally, obviously, just some threats. It would be impossible for this to get a good ranking when the management's at the point of just sounding the alarm like this. The question then is how bad of a ranking is it going to get? And I'm really tempted to say low. Low, 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 low. It's kind of dumb for me to narrow myself so much, but I'm going to say it's in the bottom 5% of all companies. What do you think? Do you agree that it's a bad ranking? Or do you think Sage Seeds AI is actually seeing value here? Remember that Sage Seeds AI absolutely takes the current market price into account. And so if people have been running away from Boeing lowering the price, it could be enough to swing it into a positive ranking. Make sure to guess, make sure to share with your friends. Obviously, whichever one of you gets closer to the actual Sage Seeds AI percentile ranking is destined to become a billionaire. Boeing is ranked 299 out of 320 in value for the 2023 season. This is the 94th percentile, so technically I lost. Not in the bottom 5%. Off by literally just one percentile. I'm going to give myself the win there because this is kind of hard to do. Boeing in a rough spot, hanging around the very bottom of the Sage Seeds AI rankings for yet another year. If you want to give them credit, the management doing a good job in what is still ultimately a close to an Armageddon type situation. Despite that, I have the feeling we're going to be able to see how this story evolves in the 2024 season as well. And I look forward to covering it with you all at that point as well.